Right, so namaste everyone, and welcome to another episode of Axis of Ideas. And for today's episode, the first episode of a brand new year, and especially interesting day because Donald Trump has again done what Donald Trump does. I have a very special guest with me for today's episode. I am pleased to be joined by Mr. Arindam Mukherjee. Arida has his own YouTube channel called HeartlandAri. He has a fascinating insight into geopolitical situations in the world. He has a sharp eye on what unfolds. And he recently wrote a fascinating book called Contours of the Greater Game. I have read this. It's a fascinating, well-researched document on political history, on geopolitical history, and anyone who is interested in understanding how the world basically works should read this. So thank you so much for joining me, Arindam. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I'm great. Happy New Year to you, to your viewers. How are things? Well, aside of
Things
Donald Trump invading Venezuela, how are things?
things are pretty good so far. Things are just normal, like
Okay. Okay.
apart from what's happening.
No.
So, just wanted to take your like I had thought of a certain few pointers that I wanted to talk about, but then this bombshell dropped literally in Venezuela, and so you would like to take your first views on that.
Uh, See, short term, if I talk about Donald Trump short term, on the face of it, it looks great for Donald Trump. It looks great for United States. It's a bold, decisive move, and so on. So, short term, yes, this is a big win for Donald Trump. It is aligning with his America First playbook. It is very swiftly. That is one of the high points. Is very swift removal of a very long-standing adversary.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this is potentially unlocking. Like, see, Venezuela is all about oil. Uh,
Right, right.
so we all know, Venezuelan hardly 10 to 20% of Venezuelan drugs reaches the United States market, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of it goes scatters around the world, mostly in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So it was never about drugs. It was always about oil, and this removal of Maduro is potentially unlocking vast oil reserves, which is going to signal strength to global rivals, especially China and Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Then if I let's think about the highlights. A very swift capture of Maduro, if what he says is true, if what Donald Trump says is true, and I'm assuming it is true because he's not going to go out on Truth Social and put out a post just like that
Mm-hmm.
about a thing like this.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a very this project's United States' military precision and prowess, and this is going to deliver on his campaign rhetoric about countering this, countering that, countering drug trafficking, which is, of course, a bluff, but
Mm-hmm.
countering left wing regimes in the hemisphere.
Right.
So, if I just about a couple of days back, I released a small video where I've talked about how the Western Hemisphere, especially South America, is turning right wing. So
Yes. Yes.
you have Argentina, which has gone right wing. You've got this what's this guy's name, that Dariwala chap, Bukele, Naib Bukele.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And you now probably would have something like that along the same lines in Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
This is moving right wing. This aligns with the vision of Donald Trump. This aligns with the vision of what Elon Musk had once said. Deregulated market, deregulated market without control, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
This could stabilize Venezuelan migration flow into United States. But what I'm talking about is I'm talking about all of these things on the face of it. Okay, on the face of it, it looks like it is going to deliver on this campaign rhetoric. It is going to boost his approval rating amongst the war hawks and the energy interested people, especially or conglomerates like ExxonMobil and things like that. If oil prices drop, or stabilize in the long term, then that is enhancing United States' energy independence.
Okay.
Okay, but there are also certain negatives to this, which could potentially be a very serious backlash of for the United States. And there are a few analysts who are thinking that this might turn into a Iraq for United States, or Afghanistan for United States, or even a Vietnam for United States. So that bit is also there. On the face of it, Donald Trump has taken a big risk. Because I remember I did a couple of podcasts a couple of months back when this lady won the Nobel Peace Prize award and all.
Yes, yes, yes.
And she went back and she immediately started talking against the Maduro government. And so we all assume that Donald Trump is probably not going to do something as reckless as direct military intervention. He is going to push for a regime change like he did in Ukraine, like United States did in Ukraine. He didn't.
Yeah.
But Donald Trump, being Donald Trump, has gone, all in and has done this. Now let's see if they can stabilize. Great. If they cannot stabilize in the manner and in the fashion that they have plans to, then there could be a problem in the long run.
So one thing that you touched upon, like his ratings among the war hungry people, or the military industrial complex within the United States. What about his rating among his voters? Because for the last few months with the midterms, we have the people are approaching. People are keeping an eye on the midterms that are approaching, and it's being said for quite some time that he will have a setback in the midterms. And his voter base, a large contingent of his voter base is like anti-war. They don't want their soldiers, their sons of the soil, to be committed to other foreign territories for so-called democracies. How does that impact?
Okay. See, there are two things which Donald Trump has done very recently. One is the Nigerian bombing, and one is this Venezuelan attempt to regime change, and probably successful. The Nigerian bombing is going to play massively to his domestic voter base, because his how shall I put it? The headline that he has used while bombing Nigeria is "I am saving Christians."
Right.
From Islamist fundamentalists. Well, factually, on grounds, how much of that is true remains to be seen, because again, as I said, that province which he has bombed in Nigeria is northwestern Nigeria, which hardly has had Islamic radicalist fundamentalist movements there. Islamic radicalism is predominantly northeast of Nigeria and east of Nigeria in different provinces, which Donald Trump has very carefully avoided, and has gone on to bomb northwest of Sokoto province in northwest of Nigeria, which doesn't have very many recorded incidents of Muslims hitting Christian, and like the way they do Boko Haram or ISIS does in Nigeria, which is burning their villages and murdering people and raping women and burning churches and all. Hasn't happened there where Donald Trump has bombed. But this is played because an average American who cannot probably point out Nigeria on the map of Africa, it is a big win for Donald Trump, because here is a Christian messiah of a president who is going and saving Christians all around the world. So that's one big win for Donald Trump as far as his domestic voters are concerned. Now, as far as Venezuela is concerned, there are two ways to play about it. One is what Donald Trump can do and he will do is he is going to put this against a massive win against the left. Okay, which is going to play to his domestic base.
Yes.
And he is going to put this as his drug against war, which is also going to probably click with his domestic base, because he has managed to convince his people over the last few months that it is Venezuela which is the main culprit as far as the drug scenario in the United States is concerned. Now, as to that part of the question which you raised, that we don't want our boys to go to war like they did in Vietnam and get killed there or captured there, or both. I think what he is going to do is he is going to, like what Putin planned to do in Ukraine. He couldn't actually, selective interference.
Right.
I'm still thinking selective interference is going to try and secure pockets, and he is going to quickly try and push a United States friendly government as early as possible, and then quickly recede to the back end, and then keep a watch from there and try to minimize his losses as far as manpower loss is concerned.
Okay. So his whole idea is like, I'm just instantly reminded of a meme that I saw a few days back. Somebody was parading around the city somewhere in India with a जो पुलिस वाला लगाते हैं ना कार में कि पुलिस है, so that guy had basically pasted friend of police. So Trump is like कि Nobel Prize winner नहीं तो क्या friend of Nobel Prize.
Nobel Prize winner. Yeah.
So okay, that's very interesting, because so like the optics of it, because like earlier last year, when the Iran-Israel conflict broke out, and there was like bombing of Iran as well, and that was kind of like stage managed. Yeah, theek hai yaar, you just keep your guard down. We'll bomb a few sites, so-called nuclear facilities, and we'll be done with that. This is much more intense.
Mm-hmm. This is much more intense, yeah.
Mm.
This
And
is
coming
much
back,
more intense. This is also an assertion of the old United States' Monroe Doctrine that Western
yes.
Hemisphere is ours and we do whatever we want to do with Western Hemisphere. This also aligns with that national security statement which Trump brought out just about a couple of weeks back, where he matlab his team very clearly reiterated the fact that Western Hemisphere is for United States to play around with, and we are going to do whatever it takes to secure our interest and our security and our
Right.
blah 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 in the Western Hemisphere, which basically boils down to North America, South America.
जिसकी लाठी उसकी भैंस. And it's been speculated for quite some time that America is declining, US is not that strong anymore, but they've just basically reasserted themselves that look, we are the big boys in the Western Hemisphere, so
Yeah.
don't screw with us.
Yeah.
What does this message to China? What does this message to Russia?
China and Russia immediately would be in trouble because a lot of China's oil supply is dependent on Venezuela. So if this oil supply gets disrupted, and it would get disrupted, then China is going to bound to respond because it is going to cut off. Because then what is the other option for China? China then has to buy from the Middle East. That subsidized oil which it is buying from Venezuela today has got to be sourced from somewhere, right?
Right.
So it probably pays above par and it buys from Middle East, and you deal with Middle East, you once again move into that petrodollar wala thing which China wants to get out of.
Right.
That's one thing. The second thing is, if this is just on the surface of it. Of course, what could China do? China could do a lot of things. What could Russia do? Russia could do a lot of things. But on the face of it, how does it affect China? It affects China as far as oil thing is concerned, and it affects Russia because if the oil prices go down beyond a particular point, then that hits Russia's war chest, which is going to stall Russian advances in Ukraine. So this could be Donald Trump's roundabout way of trapping Russian resources also.
Okay.
So this is how it would hit these two. But then, are there ways that they would, would they try out different ways and different manners in which they could trigger proxy war against the United States' occupation of Venezuela or this regime, whatever comes in? Yes, they would. They would. Okay. And there are a fair few areas where they could, and how they could sort of make this conflict a little bit of a prolonged conflict for United States.
Okay. So, like, I believe then only time will tell that whether this move by United States, or basically move by Trump, was like calculated, or was it like just a heat of the moment that he wanted to basically just poke the Chinese and the Russians to see what they do. And so is then Taiwan a fair game now for the Chinese?
Yeah, very tough question actually. It depends. No, Taiwan is still not a fair game for Chinese because United States ka that national what is that document which Donald Trump, NSS, National Security and Strategy, or something like that. What is it called, by the way? Uska naam kya hai?
I'm not sure. William Spaniel did a detailed video on that sometime back.
Just the name of it. Anyway, that NSS document, whichever Donald Trump, that has kept United States' stance on Taiwan very ambiguous, so to speak. At the one end, they say that, we don't have too much of a problem as far as China is concerned, on the face of it. And yet, at the other end, they have been pretty hawkish about Taiwan. So I believe, see, a lot of research goes before they publish these papers. When the way they word these papers and things like that, Donald Trump might appear to be whatever he is, but the fact is that the team that is working with him is not. So they have worded it very carefully, and they have kept it deliberately ambiguous. And it looks like that, yes, while they are not too while they don't want to look like they are too focused on Taiwan, there is a fair chance there in that document itself, which might suddenly change all that and might just shift United States' focus into Taiwan if they so wish to. So is it coming back to your question of is Taiwan a fair game for China? The answer is probably no.
Okay. Okay. And so again, a little while ago, we just mentioned Iran, and of course, things have exploded there as well, uh, on the pretext of economy. But how much of do you see it as actual issues with economy, and how much of it do you see as like somebody pulling strings from far away?
This was bound to happen. I mean, we had predicted it about. I don't know we. Why am I saying we? I had predicted it about a year back. The moment Israel started having extra territorial ambitions as far as Syria, south of Syria was concerned, and they were thinking of, ठीक है, हमास को अभी कुछ कर लिया, अभी ईरान को टारगेट करेंगे and all. This was bound to happen, especially why? Because normally ऐसा मेरे दिमाग में नहीं आता, but तब ट्विटर में बहुत रेगुलर जाते थे. अभी ट्विटर जाना मेरा थोड़ा कम हो गया पिछले 2-3 महीने में. तब ट्विटर में रेगुलर जाते थे एंड वो ट्विटर में आता है ना कि पीपल यू माइट बी इंटरेस्टेड इन, पीपल फीड्स यू माइट बी इंटरेस्टेड इन. वहां पे अचानक से ये रेजा शाह 2 का ट्वीट्स आने लग गया एंड आई वाज लाइक व्हाट इज दिस मैन डूइंग. सो नाउ दिस मैन from nowhere suddenly comes in and starts tweeting, and his tweets are gaining traction could only mean one thing, that he is being pushed by certain establishments. Now, why is he being pushed by certain establishment? Only when you want to create a face that Iranians would probably be interested to look at. Now, with the regime and with the kind of discontent that Iranians have with the regime, a part of it is actually true. Okay. Because that part is actually true, it helps any external force which is interested to cascade domestic disruption, domestic chaos in Iran, which might just boil up to an extent where there could be a regime change. That makes sense now. That makes sense. Why? Because you already have a Reza Shah Jr. who is sitting by the sidelines, that if tomorrow something happens, he might just drop in. And he is he's a Western, basically United States puppet. So he'll do, if he comes, assuming he comes to power, assuming a regime change in Iran happens, and assuming Reza Shah Jr. comes to power, he is going to do the West's bidding. He is going to do Israel and West's bidding. And that is going to, frankly speaking, real politically speaking, that is going to help stabilize Middle East. That is going to help stabilize Middle East a lot, especially as far as UAE, as far as KSA, which is Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, as far as Bahrain, as far as Israel, as far as all of these places are concerned. How is it going to impact? So somebody is going to gain there. Who are those somebody who would probably lose out a lot? India would lose out a lot. Russia would lose out a lot. Yeah. Now, this is a very complex topic here. As far as this women removing their headscarf and all, it's an absolutely admirable sentiment, and more power to them and things like that.
Yes.
but I've got my friend and my colleague Arshia Malik, who you would probably be calling in one of your podcasts sometimes very soon.
I hope to.
Yeah. आर्शिया के साथ मेरा इसको लेके बहुत बात होता है, and we always very politely we are standing across at 2 points, where Arshia is completely with the freedom of the kind of freedom that Iranian women are fighting for, and I am all with her, all the way with her on this. The fact is that this regime, okay, now forget whether this regime is Islamist or whether this regime is radicalist, whether this regime is medieval. This regime is everything. Okay, it is Islamist. It is partially radical, at least in the Middle Eastern region, where Iranian radicalism has not hurt the rest of the world. Shia radicalism has not hurt the rest of the world like the way Sunni radicalism has. आज के दिन
Yes.
में यूरोप में कितना भी बॉम्ब ब्लास्ट होता है या एशिया में या इंडिया में कहीं पे भी जितना भी जो कुछ भी होता है, it is mostly Sunni terrorism. It is not Shia terrorism. So ईरान का जहां तक radicalism का सवाल है, which is restricted mostly to Middle East. So yes, the regime is Islamist, the regime is radical, whatever. But this is a regime that India, Russia, China, etc., members of the other side of the world, that the core members that are planning to bring in a multipolar world, this is a regime with whom these people had managed to build a working relationship.
Right.
It had its ups and downs. Iran was heavily sanctioned. Iran is still heavily sanctioned. So not everything is very smooth. Iran and Russia and China and India, all of them have their hands tied across in certain places. But there was a working relationship. Case in point is the International North-South Transport Corridor.
Yes.
A large chunk of it moves through Iran. And this International North-South Transport Corridor benefits India, benefits Iran, Azerbaijan, Russia, a lot of places. Okay, it bypasses Suez Canal. It makes the transit of goods very cheaper. It makes the transit of goods very shorter. Transit of goods between India and Russia, very convenient. That is something which is going to suffer. So yes, while this regime is radicalist and Islamist and etc., whatever it is, this regime has, the other countries, part of the multipolar alignment, had managed to create a working relationship with this regime. Now, this, let's say the Iranian Janta, Iranian public wins and the women are liberated, more power to them, and you've got Reza Shah Jr. coming and sitting there in Iran as the new leader of Iran. Iran is going to tilt to West. Now, if Iran tilts to West, it is of serious advantage to the Middle East and Israel and USA and everybody. It is of serious disadvantage to the world that is aiming for multipolarity. So that's where Iran becomes very complex, actually. So while I am, while I feel good about this, the people who are trying to rise up against their regime, which has been oppressing them, which is absolutely true. But then again, this is the regime which has actually kept a lot of things as far as this multipolar alignment is concerned in place. Once this regime disappears, the one that comes in is going to probably disrupt a lot of things.
Yeah. And so how does India prepare for this going forward? I mean, there can be plenty of material written, published, spoken that what should be done. How much of it is done? I mean, only our bureaucrats will decide. But what actually are steps that India, or how can India plan to, kind of balance its relation with Iran, irrespective of whoever, whether the regime stays or whether somebody else takes over? Like, does India already begin to speak with possible future leaders? How do you see that?
As far as Iran is concerned, India has got two angles in play here. One is the Russian angle. One is the Western angle. And India has been, over the past few years, India has been pretty balanced as far as these two angles are concerned. Now, whoever comes to power, India is going to, there is not too much of a business loss for India, so to speak. I'm going to tell you why. But then where is the loss for India? The loss for India and is where the loss for Russia and the loss for China is that multipolarity suffers.
Okay.
Why is it not business loss for India? Because ठीक है यार, INSTC अगर खतरे में है, तो India has the Middle Eastern corridor.
Yes.
So Indian goods can reach Europe any which way. ठीक है? And India is known to have maintained good relation even with people like countries like Maldives. And अभी तो बांग्लादेश में भी गुस्सा आता है ना, बांग्लादेश को लेके इंडिया का जो the ambiguity that India is showing.
Yeah.
But the thing is that in the same way, that's a different topic. We can गाली गलौज करो Bangladesh a little while later. But the fact is that India will maintain a good relationship with whoever comes to power in Iran. Because again, INSTC नहीं है, Middle Eastern corridor है, ठीक है, we not probably getting an access to Russia in the way we want, but we are getting an access to Europe. Then again, when it comes to India and Russia and this INSTC transport, don't think that this is the only transport route that India and Russia have walked in between them. India, Russia already have a Moscow-Vladivostok route. So ट्रांजिट कॉरिडोर तो हो जाएगा, इधर से नहीं उधर से हो जाएगा. हाँ, मॉस्को व्लादिवोस्टॉक रूट में थोड़ा सा प्रॉब्लम क्या है, यू हैव टू डिपेंड ऑन अ लॉट ऑफ पावर्स व्हिच आर अलाइन्ड विद द वेस्ट, लाइक साउथ कोरिया में एक स्टॉपेज है. The route passes through Malaga Straits, where United States has got a very strong naval presence. Then there is Philippines, जहाँ पे एक stopover है. Philippines is not exactly, it's a good United States का ally actually. ठीक है, I mean, I wouldn't call it a China in the multipolar setting of the world today. I wouldn't call it a China that has its own voice and that doesn't necessarily always follow United States' orders. Philippines doesn't have that kind of a thing, and neither is Philippines or North Korea or Russia ki ekdam absolutely anti-US. So Philippines is aligned with US. South Korea is basically virtually a United States ka military base, vassal state, a military base. वहां से होके रूट जाता है व्लादिवोस्टॉक. सो यू बिकम अ लिटिल डिपेंडेंट ऑन दीज प्लेयर्स, एंड irrelevant players like Philippines or irrelevant players like, I would call it irrelevant, but normally तो ये लोग का कुछ मतलब खास importance नहीं है, impact नहीं है. That you also have to start caring about the kind of impact, potential impact that these countries would have, their leadership transitions, their political changes, etc., etc., would come into your equation, which was which would probably not have been there had you had the INSTC, because you had a regime in Iran, and you know you are already friends with Russia, and with Putin and Putin's team of people, and even if Putin disappears tomorrow, Putin's team is in place. A team which we don't know much about, St. Petersburg boys, they are there. And so हो सकता है कि जो आगे पुतिन के बाद है वो पुतिन से भी भयंकर हो. So yeah, so this is right. This is one factor which United States doesn't take into account, because whatever little I've heard, Patrushev probably is more kharus than Vladimir Putin himself, and he is one of the big guys. He is one of those guys. Like you have this Lavrov and Patrushev and all, and they are very shadowy characters, very shadowy players who like we call them St. Petersburg boys, but St. Petersburg boys में कौन है आज तक किसी को पता नहीं. So whoever comes after Putin
deep
might
state,
be
Russian deep state.
Russian deep state. Whoever comes after Putin might be Putin ke baap, that way. So you have got a certain amount of stability as far as your relationship with Russia is concerned. You have got a certain amount of stability as far as your relationship with Iran is concerned. That theoretically, that made INSTC stable. To build that kind of a stability now with Philippines and etc., जहां से वो route जाता है from Moscow to Vladivostok, that is once again getting back to the drawing board, creating a plan of action and putting that in place and then monitoring it. A lot of extra work. लेकिन काम चल जाएगा.
Okay. A couple of questions, just an offshoot, just one offshoot question from your explanation just now, and another one that I just wanted to ask about Iran anyway. Talking about Philippines and say the kind of dependence that we might have on them, as far as transit routes are concerned and everything. Is it one of the? I'm just reminded of a recent visit that the government of India had with Brunei. It's like I think in the same region. So are like is it or they are also like preempting stuff that we have to have other players available in this region, and if needed we can depend on them as well for help.
Could very well be. Actually help का भी उतना नहीं है, पता है. These are not very influential players that way. These players are क्या है कि if shit hits the fan, then these people would probably bow down to the United States. Now that's the issue.
Yeah.
Okay, so if shit hits the fan, you have ABC who are not going to bow down to United States. You build your relationship with them, you understand their temperament, uske upar base karke you create a whole damn plan, which is a transport corridor, economic corridor, bilateral relation, trilateral relation, multi-billions of dollars at stake.
Hmm.
And then suddenly you have to shift to, from ABC, you have to shift to XYZ, people who might buckle under pressure. And then that is once again a huge waste of resource and time and planning and this and that. I'm not saying that this is, I'm at the same time, I'm not saying, Nick, let me rephrase that, which also goes to show that for a country like India, that is more about balancing, that is more about being the voice of global south and more about balancing between Russia, China, and the Western world, and trying to find its own voice. And it's more about transactional relationship and hedging bets. India should have done this before, if they hadn't already.
Yeah, I mean, with us, it's always like that. Things should have happened earlier.
Before, instead of being reactive, if we are doing it now. Now, I'm not sure if Brunei visit or a Philippines visit has got anything to do with क्या बोलते हैं उसको?
Preempting something.
A premonition of the fact that there's going to be a regime change in Iran, and so we need to find out an alternate route, and so we need to cement our relationship with these governments. अगर वो अभी हो रहा है तो ये reactive move है, ये आज से 2 साल पहले हो जाना चाहिए था. Probably when the Hamas attack on Israel happened, तब हो जाना चाहिए था, because Israel में attack करो, Hamas के through attack करो, which means of what, sooner or later Iran is going to get pulled into the picture. And वो जो प्लान था ना, 7 regime changes in 11 years or something like that, कुछ एक प्लान था, उसमें Iran was there. So Iran has always been a target for regime change. And it is, well, the Western world, United States believes it. How much of it is true is absolutely debatable, and it is debatable because their idea of worldview is very skewed. United States believes that Middle East में stability आएगा only once we can manage to do away with this mullah regime of Iran.
Yeah. I mean, it's like kind of like limited understanding of the region or stuff like that. Although, like their clandestine operations organizations, they go very deep into it. But I don't know.
Actually,
still,
actually, it helps them, ना? उनके लिए Middle East में stability is keeping Israel stable.
Right.
Middle Eastern stability is keeping Israel stable, and that's it. और कुछ नहीं. So it helps. I mean, and Israel को destabilize करने का सिर्फ ईरान ही है, because Iranian proxies are the one that are fighting Israel today. So ईरान को अगर मैं खत्म कर दूं, if I can, destroy Iran, then I make Middle East stable. हाँ, अब would that mean that Sunni states are not going to erupt in fighting with each other? Probably no. लेकिन ऐसा है geopolitics में, you're always kicking the can ahead for the next person to handle it. कि वो जब वो आएंगे, हाँ, जब वो आएगा तब देखा जाएगा टाइप्स, जब वो होगा तब देखा जाएगा.
And it's yeah.
हाँ, बोलो.
नहीं, आप complete.
I'm saying, and Middle East has never been at peace with itself. Call it
exactly.
whatever.
That's what I was about to say. That it's always like tribes fighting among each other. Like उनका अपना चल रहा है कुछ ना कुछ उधर. And like everybody is just basically trying to like the other players or like the outsiders are just trying to figure out कि भाई इसमें से हम क्या अपने लिए निकाल लें. But it's basically, it's still like tribal wars. जो आप हम like history में अगर पढ़े, in Japan there was the Sengoku Jidai period where all these samurai tribes were fighting each other, or clans I should say. And India maybe that phase has gone where like different empires have clashed with each other time and again before the invasion and everything. So वो अभी भी उसी mode में stuck है. It's just that the swords have been replaced by guns and missiles and tanks. बट वो उसी तरह से चल रहा है. अफगानिस्तान में ले लीजिए, उसी तरह से वो वही पश्तून, उज़्बेक, कजाक सब आपस में लड़ रहे हैं उधर में, वो ट्राइब्स. एंड हजारास भी उसमें वही चल रहा है. अबाउट ईरान, वन अदर क्वेश्चन about that I wanted to ask, like what do you how do you look at the future of Islam there? Because I saw another video by Sanjay Dikshit ji earlier today. Just want to get your views that because of the revolution in 79, that kind of spiked the Muslim Brotherhood, or catalyzed the cries for caliphate and stuff like that, and or it's like one of those turning points. how do you see this? Like, if this revolution, the revolution of 79 finally dies here, is counteracted here, how do you assess the future of Islam going forward?
there are very there is a very there is limited amount of information as far as the religiosity of Iranians in general that come out of Iran. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, whoever speaks whatever is speaking basically on assumption,
Mm-hmm.
but whatever little information comes out points out to the fact that even I would be speaking whatever I am speaking, I would be speaking an assumption, points out to
Mm-hmm.
the fact that a large number of Iranians are pretty disillusioned with Islam. There are closet ex-Islamists, there are closet atheists, there are closet whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this could be now I am speaking an assumption. This
Mm-hmm.
could be one of the major reasons why the Iranian regime is so autocratic, why the Iranian regime is so high-handed
Mm-hmm.
on Iranian population. Because probably they understand that if we give these people a little bit of a leeway, then at least our urban centers would be gone. Rural
Right.
centers में religiosity हमेशा ज्यादा रहता है, rural centers
Mm-hmm.
gets affected सबसे बाद में. तो modernization के चक्कर में it is always the urban center, the urban population that loses their contact with their religious spirit and their background.
Mm-hmm.
So probably the Iranian regime understands that if we, and there are serious influences, so to speak, probably in the urban centers, that if we sort of let our iron grip slip even a little bit, then that is going to cascade this, de-Islamic movement probably, and that is something which we cannot afford. Then we lose our legitimacy. Then if we lose our legitimacy, we lose everything. इसीलिए crackdown. So
Right.
yes, I have a feeling that Iran, if there is a regime change in Iran, and this is where that part of my mind aligns with what Arshia Malik says. One part that is geopolitically aligned that says
Yeah,
that
yeah,
the regime is good for India and
yeah.
Russia and
Yeah.
China and all. The other part of the mind which aligns with Arshia says that this kind of a regime change, if it happens in Iran, whether it's courtesy Israel or whether it's courtesy United States, we don't know as yet. But yeah, guesses the way here, points fingers to these two players only. If that happens, then we are going to see the first time that Iran opens up in front of our eyes after 1979, we are probably going to find out a lot of de-religionized people that would come out of Iran, and uh, a lot of very fresh, a lot of very vibrant voices that have otherwise been suppressed would probably meet the rest of the world, and it would be a welcome change actually. So societally, it would be a damn good thing to happen.
Right. And contrary to that, like as we see that in Iran, there is this wave of revolution and a possible future where there will be de-Islamization, so to say. Closer to our neighborhood and even closer to us, considering the geographic locality, we are seeing more radicalization in Bangladesh. And uh, recent examples of like openly killing people, and it just gets worse and worse there. I remember watching a podcast of Colonel Ajay Rainaji. I think that was earlier last year, or maybe just a few months after the so-called regime change in Bangladesh, the so-called student protest.
So-called student protest. It was actually a regime change.
Yeah. And I think it was with Adi Achint, and he had said it. He, in fact, said it several times through different episodes that we have a very small window of opportunity of making an impact in Bangladesh as far as our assertion in this region is concerned. Nip it in the bud before it worsens. Nuke this already growing cancer before it becomes it becomes stage 4, untreatable. Do you think we ever had any window of opportunity, or if we had, is it still there, or is it now gone for us?
देखो, tactically window of opportunity, because Colonel Raina is speaking as a trained army guy who spent his given his life to the army thing. So
Yes.
tactically windows of opportunities क्या है क्या नहीं है, he would be much better equipped than me to be talking about. However, yes, there are missed opportunities strategically long term in Bangladesh,
Mhm.
which I've always spoken about. बांग्लादेश में रजीम चेंज होने से 6 से 7 महीना पहले आई वेंट टू आदिया चिन्स पॉडकास्ट एंड आई सेड दैट देयर इज गोना बी अ रजीम चेंज इन बांग्लादेश. Okay, this was in January, I think.
Yes, yes.
Right. Yeah.
I specifically remember because I saw that podcast. I was on my way back from Puri, and that was January. And you had said it that things are boiling there.
And I said September, October में, it happened in August. It happened one
Yes,
month
yes,
before I
yes,
predicted.
yes.
उससे पहले I think उससे 3-4 महीने पहले in the previous year of that January, in November or October, I don't remember, either in First Post or in New Indian, I wrote an article about why United States को बांग्लादेश चाहिए and why United States is going to crack down on Bangladesh. My simple logic is, we सब लिखने के बाद, my simple logic is, if guys sitting on the outside, guys like us sitting on the outside can understand that there's going to be a problem in Bangladesh, people sitting there in the in South Block or wherever they sit should have analyzed it 5 years back and should have acted on it. Okay, and you need not had to wait for Sheikh Hasina to say, "Oh, United States wants Saint Martin from me. I don't want to give Saint Martin to them. Isliye they're going to attack us." No, Sheikh Hasina के बाद there was no succession plan as far as Awami League is concerned. खालिदा जिया के बाद there is no succession plan as far as BNP is concerned. ये आदमी को तो अभी चॉपर ड्रॉप किया है उसका जो बेटा है. These guys were not interested that way. Okay. Now, if you're a big neighbor who's surrounding Bangladesh from 3 sides, we literally surround Bangladesh from 3 sides. And in geopolitics, you always have the regional power that is going to be your big daddy, whether you like it or you don't like it. I mean, I don't give a flying fuck about what a Bangladeshi likes or Bangladeshi doesn't like. Excuse my language, but that's how geopolitics plays out. So it is in Bangladesh's destiny to be influenced by India because India is the regional power. Now, as a regional power, you should have built your first thing is you should have had your checks and balances in place with every escalation marked and your corrective action that needs to be taken. Basically, corporate में जैसे होता है standard operating procedure.
Yeah.
So, problem A escalates to this level, problem B escalates to that level. उसमें क्या क्या करना है, क्या क्या नहीं करना है, what is the time frame? Everything is laid down in a book, and that book is given to you when you join the organization. So you know exactly what needs to be done. I don't think there was a rule book like that ever that existed in the case of Bangladesh. So now, if it was not there, which is a massive wasted opportunity, which is a massive flaw in our strategy, and उसके ऊपर बेस करके, if Colonel Ajay Raina is saying that we have a very small window, I would tend to agree with him. Yeah, we probably had a very small window. I don't know if that window exists or not.
It's kind of frustrating. Like we are always kind of left behind or left wanting कि यार this was our opportunity.
And इसमें एक और बात है, ये विंडो को भी तुम गोली मारो, भूल जाओ, विंडो नहीं चाहिए, अपना बॉर्डर को स्ट्रॉन्ग करो. What is our main problem with Bangladesh? You've got a problem with Islamist infiltration, illegal Islamist infiltration as far as Bangladesh is concerned. भाई अपना बॉर्डर स्ट्रॉन्ग कर लेना. भाड़ में जाए बांग्लादेश, तुमको क्या लेना था? तुम यहाँ पे रो रहे हो ममता बनर्जी ने मुझे बॉर्डर नहीं दिया. अरे ममता बनर्जी तुमको बॉर्डर नहीं दिया, तुम बैठ गए. I mean, what kind of a home minister, what kind of a home ministry is cribbing that a state minister is not allowing me access to, and it is not a peacetime border like let's say a border with I don't know, Nepal, or let's say a border with Bhutan कि चलो यार ठीक है 6 महीना बाद भी fencing करेंगे तो चलेगा. You've got this bloody problem from 70s, ever since Jyoti Basu started dawat, armed dawat for Bangladeshis to come and settle here. You've got a border problem. And now when shit hits the fan, you're sitting on Mamta Didi ने मुझे border में fencing बनाने के लिए जगह नहीं दिया.
Oh, I mean, for all the good things that Amit Shah has done, I think he has done several good things as a home minister, but this really stinks. As a as a Bengali,
domestic security stinks. I don't know what he's done, but frankly speaking, domestic security stinks.
I mean, he's done the cleansing of the Red Corridor, so the credit for that. But yeah, I mean, there are other so many sensitive regions that need to be handled, and especially Bengal. I mean,
See,
it's on.
in order
Yes,
of progression, Satvik, in order of progression, the first thing any country does is secure your
internal
border.
security.
No,
Hmm.
secure your
Oh,
border.
borders.
Internal security में border secure करो, then do a cleanup.
Hmm.
So your Chhattisgarh area cleaning, your Maoist cleaning is good, but in order of progression, that comes in at a second stage or a third stage maybe. First is
Hmm.
secure your border. Your political sanctity is you are a state, right?
Hmm.
Whether you're a nation state, a civilization state, empire state is
जो भी
different.
है.
You are a state, which means
Hmm.
what? You are bound by geography,
Right.
which means what? Your territorial integrity matters, which means what? Your border needs to be secure. So you
Yeah,
need to first secure your border.
it's the absolute basics of keeping your country safe, keeping your people safe. I mean, when he said that I mean, and it's not just recently he has said it. It's been said previously as well, like
बहुत
last
बार
1
बोला है.
year. हाँ, the state government is not giving us that. अरे भैया, you are the central government,
You're
भाई.
the central government, yeah.
जाके ले लो यार. I'm sure in the constitution there are provisions with which you can just like apply like national security reasons and just take land यार. क्या
Yeah.
मतलब
एंड
a public.
लैंड मतलब तुम तो ये नहीं क्लेम कर रहे हो कि वहां पे जाके हम सेंटर की तरफ से इंडस्ट्री बनाए, कुछ नहीं. यू आर
हाँ, अभी
ब्लडी
वो
बिल्डिंग अ
सिर्फ
फेंस.
एग्जैक्टली उसको फेंस ही करना है. और यार टीएमसी के गुंडे आके उसको तोड़ रहे. अरे यार
अब क्या बोलेंगे, वही मैं बोल
क्या
रहा हूँ
बोलना
कि
है अभी. मैं बोलूंगा उल्टा. मैं यहाँ बैठ के बोल रहा हूँ, उल्टा मुझ पे अभी कुछ आ जाएगा. तो
actually
या
you don't put on the blame back into the state for something which is a
it's
national security issue. You
it's
cannot.
the most ridiculous thing.
Yeah.
It's the most ridiculous argument that one can give कि यार स्टेट गवर्नमेंट जमीन नहीं दे रही है यार. पब्लिक के जेब से तो पैसा तुम जब चाहे तुम निकाल लोगे यार. What is stopping you from doing this?
Wait. As I said, that strategy wise, your international this thing outlook as far as Bangladesh is concerned
Hmm.
is not at par, because you did not have a succession plan. बांग्लादेशी से बात करो तो सुनने को मिलता है रॉ बैठा है, रॉ ने मेरा सब ले लिया, रॉ ने पूरा पूरा बांग्लादेश को रॉ चला रहा है. अगर उसका 10% भी सही है भाई, अगर उसका 10% भी सही है, तो रॉ को तो सब कुछ, मतलब इंडियन इंटेलिजेंस को, विथ ऑल ड्यू रिस्पेक्ट टू रिसर्च एंड एनालिसिस विंग,
Yes.
I'm saying with Indian intelligence, because you are a bigger power, because you're a regional power, this is literally your captive state. You've bloody shifted industries so that country can
Survive.
survive. That country does not starve. That country does not go out on begging ball. You have shifted your textile industries. You're putting in your power supply lines. You're providing electricity. You're providing God knows what. अभी तक भी चावल देते जा रहा है. So this is basically a captive state of yours. So अगर captive state ही है, तो captive state में भी तुम अपना law and order और अपना जो progression है, सब कुछ plan करके रखो. Plan for contingencies, plan for emergency, plan for everything.
Yeah.
So what Colonel Raina says is absolutely right. कि टाइम पे कुछ नहीं किया, अभी विंडो जो आएगा वो तो छोटा ही रहेगा ना, वो कहाँ से बड़ा विंडो
Exactly.
होगा.
Good point. Well, Bangladesh, we'll rant about Bangladesh in future as well. I'm sure that country will keep giving us plenty of material and opportunities to do so. Another thing that I just wanted to talk about, a bit late, but still something, because considering how geopolitical events are changing and considering how Donald Trump is, driving geopolitical events, I've always thought of international relations and stuff like that. We like a स्लो मूविंग रोड रोलर कि धीरे धीरे चल रहा है, अपनी स्पीड में अपने हिसाब से चलता है, बिकॉज इट्स अ ह्यूज मशीनरी. सब कुछ टाइम लेता है अपने आप. लॉट्स ऑफ पीसेस मूविंग, लॉट्स ऑफ गियर्स फंक्शनिंग. डोनाल्ड ट्रंप इज एसेंशियली रनिंग दिस रोड रोलर लाइक अ फॉर्मूला 1 कार. अभी वो कहाँ जाके किस बिल्डिंग को तोड़ेगा विद अ रेकिंग बॉल अटैच टू इट, तो किसकी सड़क तोड़ेगा, किसके घर में घुसेगा, अभी कुछ पता नहीं चल रहा है. बट रिगार्डिंग Russia's Putin's recent visit last month, after it's been almost a month since he had a kind of a bromance with Modi ji, was treated to vegetarian delicacy, which a lot of lefties didn't like. I don't know why. I mean,
They have a problem with everything.
I mean, नहीं, अब आप सोचो ना, आप एक किसी कंट्री में जा रहे हो, आप तो वहां का भी कुछ ट्राई करोगे ना, हमेशा थोड़ा अपना खाते रहोगे। अब वेजिटेरियन दे दिया यार, तुम क्यों तो उसके लिए उतना परेशान हो रहे हो? अल्टीमेटली मतलब इस चीज से रखो कि यू नो अचीव क्या हो रहा है। सो दैट्स व्हाट आई वांट टू आस्क यू, क्या अचीव किया गया इससे? व्हाट वाज द पॉइंट ऑफ इट? वाज इट मोर ऑप्टिक्स आफ्टर द एससीओ समिट, और वाज इट लाइक सम मोर अंदर की सेटिंग एंड स्टफ लाइक दैट?
ना ना, इट वाज नॉट ऑप्टिक्स, जस्ट ऑप्टिक्स। एक तो ट्रेड रूट को कंसोलिडेट किया,
Mm-hmm.
because now after this Hamas thing and after this Israel thing, they were more or less certain कि Iran is going to be in trouble. So there was a lot of talks that went on as far as this Chennai Vladivostok route was concerned. There was a lot
Right.
of talk as far as the northern sea route.
Mm-hmm.
व्लादिवोस्टॉक से भी जाके travels through the North Sea. वहां पे Russia has invited China to play. Russia has invited India to play a bit more a meatier, a more chunkier role there. So
Mm-hmm.
उसको लेके बात हुआ. Economic trade cooperation, there's like 100 billion करने का है, 100 billion trade between Russia and which is right now at 68 or something. By 2030 उस पे उसको 100 billion पे लेके जाना है. फिर EAU जो है, EAU के साथ which is basically a Russian initiative comprising of Russia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, etc., etc. उसके साथ इंडिया का एक FTA का बात चल रहा है. Now,
Yes.
each time an FTA like this gets signed, there's a lot of extra trade that comes onto the plate. So, oil and gas supply है, बहुत कुछ है. But what and this is something which is very interesting, and this is something which I intend to explore a little bit. This is just a kind of a seed of a thought which is there in my mind. This time around, there has been a lot of focus on 1 minute. Yeah. There's been a lot of focus on people to people this thing, contacts, people movement.
Yes.
Indian labor going to Russia. There's been a little bit of a rehash of focus on academic exchange and cultural reestablishment and things like that. Now, इसमें एक चीज आता है, one would immediately tend to think of Soviet era and India and all. उसको दिमाग में रख, हाँ, उसको दिमाग में रख के भी Soviet era and India, that thing was more of a kind of a ideological alignment, and whatever used to flow from Soviet Union to India.
Right.
So we would be exposed to Soviet magazines, and we would be exposed to XYZ, Soviet style gadi and Soviet style life and Soviet style buildings and things like that. But this time around, there is a fair amount of intermingling that is going to happen.
Yes, that's interesting.
So India goes up and sets up a urea factory somewhere in east of Russia. Indian laborers go and work. Earlier on, it used to be during the Soviet days, it would be Russian engineers that are going to come and set up your plant, and that are going to come and modernize your plant and things like that. So this time around, there's going to be, it looks like it is going to be a fair exchange of people, with a lot of focus on Indian people migrating to Russia. I see a humongously big opportunity here, in the sense that I see a lot of Sanatani and Russian culture mixing, and probably a synthesis of idea which can change the power dynamics as far as multipolarity is concerned.
Okay.
The one common element that binds this part of the world and that part of the world is that we've both faced Turkic and Islamic invasion, and we've both sustained.
Yes.
That could be a terrific building point.
Civilizational connection.
There are civilizational connections. Then there is the old Russian collectivist sense of living, sense of क्या बोलते हैं उसको, life vision. Okay. Before India became very hyper Western and hyper individualistic, we also had that sense of collectivism. Acha, Russian collectivism it's not just communist. Russian collectivism comes from before. Indian collectivism is also different Gotra and different this and different
Right,
that
right,
is
right.
also very colonial and pre-Islamic and it predates a lot of the recent imperial structures that were set up in India.
Hmm.
I'm thinking as I speak with you, this is something which has been playing on in my mind ever since you told me in the afternoon when you sent me that WhatsApp that we might talk a little bit about Russia and Putin's visit. I have been
Hmm.
thinking about that. That ठीक है, on the surface of it, okay, $100 billion trade bill and $200 billion something, and तुम थोड़ा मुझे यूरिया दो, मैं थोड़ा तुमको पोटेशियम दूंगा and things like that is everything is fine. Okay, थोड़ा सा oil, थोड़ा सा gas, everything is fine.
Nuclear energy and all that.
Yeah, तो एक नया प्लांट बनाएंगे and
Hmm,
things
hmm,
like
hmm.
that.
Yeah.
What I am thinking, what I am saying is, if this material, and this is one of the major, this could be one of the major outcome between this, as you rightly put, bromance between Mr. Modi and Mr. Putin. The effect of it, if it travels beyond, because it involves a lot of people movement, if it travels beyond the conventional economics and military and hardware and software exchange, if it
Hmm,
moves into the people domain,
hmm,
which is to say that it comes out of the elite controlled, elite um, or operated areas, and it sort of melts and it sort of diffuses into the normal people, then I'm seeing a massive cultural exchange that is going to happen. And I'm seeing a massive add or soft power combination that might change a lot of things in the coming 5-10 years if this goes according to plan. And Satvik, there is one more thing. These things have a life of their own. The moment
yes.
you kickstart and the moment they come to life, they have their own way of moving, they have their own way of proceeding, and you and I cannot control that.
Yes, yes, yes. I mean, too many wheels in motion, it
Yeah.
takes on a form of its own. It's like a
So I,
juggernaut moving.
yeah, it's a huge juggernaut. So I maybe I am like, being hopelessly romantic, but I
Hmm.
am seeing a chance. I am seeing a, a brilliant window of a massive cultural a cultural combo, a Slavic Vedic combo, probably opening up in future.
Hmm. And I mean, as far as the dharmic connection is concerned, I mean, there is already quite a bit of influence of our Hindu dharma in Russia. I mean,
Yeah,
some of the videos that we've seen of Janmashtami and even Rath Yatra there,
yeah,
they're quite serious about it. Like
yeah.
there's nothing superficial about it. कि अरे बस photo ops के लिए कर
Ha
लिया.
ha ha ha.
They
Yes.
actually do it very very earnestly.
And
I
and
hope it.
imagine and
Hmm,
imagine if you are if you can combine Solzhenitsyn with Vedic values
hmm,
and Russian collectivism and Indian collectivism,
hmm,
and this common, um, you know, क्या बोलते हैं उसको, pedigree
hmm,
of standing up to Turkic invasion and staying intact as a civilization,
hmm.
even if it is partially. You're looking at a massive soft power output, which is going to be non-Western soft power, which the world has probably never seen
The
ever.
potential is immense there. I hope it opens gates for a lot of our skilled.
इसको लेके काम करना पड़ेगा, इसको लेके किसी को काम करना पड़ेगा.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I hope it opens opportunities for a lot of our skilled young people to make a living there, and um, of course, it's also going to cause a lot of heartburn for lefties. I remember last year there was a lot of hue and cry about, oh, Indians are having to go and work in Israel. Arey bhai, Indians are already going and working in Gulf for so many years. You didn't have any problem then. But Indians, especially from the northern region, going to Israel is suddenly a matter of problem. Yeah, of course, you want uh, more opportunities created here. Now, again, I'm of the opinion that government, there can be only so many government jobs. You just want the government to create the infrastructure.
Opportunities for you.
हाँ कि भाई अब यहाँ पे प्राइवेट बंदा आके अपनी फैक्ट्री लगा ले और नौकरी दे दे. वी वांट दैट, बट जो मिल रहा है वो तो करो ना यार, वो करने दो ना यार, क्या बुरा है. वो एक अलग कल्चर में मतलब असिमुलेट किया या उसकी नॉलेज ले रहा है, वहां से कुछ अच्छी चीज सीख रहा है. अगर वहां से लोग अगर आके यहाँ पे दो चार चीजें सुधार भी दें कि भैया सड़क के साफ रखा करो, अपनी घर बार अच्छा रखा करो. I mean, these are like byproducts of cultural exchange. Then it's a good thing. Because I mean, civic sense is such an issue here. I hope that नौकरी चाहे मिले जो मिले, civic sense हम सीखे दूसरे देशों से in cultural connections के through.
yes.
क्योंकि ठीक है यार, कॉर्पोरेशंस म्यूनिसिपैलिटी सबका काम है, उनको करना चाहिए, उनको करना, बट वो लोग भी तो हमसे ही उठ के आ रहे हैं ना. वो लोग भी तो हमसे उठ के आ रहे हैं. हम ही साफ नहीं रहना चाहते तो वो क्या वो भी वही परपेचुएट कर रहा है. क्या ठीक है, लोगों को क्या फर्क पड़ता है. तो one last question, not related to these things, but just looking at how things are shaping up in the world. How do you see the future of democracy? And I bring this up because you've written about it in your book. You have referenced material. I'm forgetting his name, who has written like 7-8 very good articles on this. And you've also referenced Greek philosophy in this. Like there's the entire book, like eighth book of Republic, wherein they have given the stages, first the aristocracy, and then empires, and then democracies, and then authoritarianism. Like these are like inevitable stages that or a large chunk of a region has to go through. What do you see the future of democracy in general?
In the near future, nothing changes actually. More and more parts of the world would want to transition into a democratic setup. Even if they don't want to, United States and the West is going to force them to get into a democratic
if they have oil
setup. Even if they don't have oil, if they are resource rich in any other manner or fashion, or if their locations which can be conveniently accessed, like a Bangladesh doesn't have oil but suddenly has become very important. Why? Because Bay of Bengal mein US ka koi base nahi hai. So if you are suddenly a resource rich country, or you are suddenly a country which is lying along the lines of a transport corridor, let's say, which is passing a transport corridor of a rival few countries like India and Iran and Russia, creating a transport corridor, so you suddenly start eyeing Azerbaijan, which has got little value other than siphoning off Caspian oil to Europe, which is also through a very expensive pipeline project. तो ये तो डेमोक्रेसी पुश करते ही रहेंगे. So I don't see democracy disappearing anywhere in the next few years at least. Or democracy rahega, because despite all its flaws, and I have been very critical about democracy in the book that I have written. Why not? Because you have to understand that in that book there, in Contours of the Greater Game, I view democracy as a tool of control.
Yes.
If democracy stops being a tool of control, then it's probably not the best form of governance that there is, but you don't have a better alternative.
Yes.
Okay. My problem is it was conceptualized and it is being used as a tool of control. That's the only issue that I have. Other than that, okay. I mean, if it ceases to be a tool, being a tool of control, power to people is the only normal thing. Power to people is the only natural solution. There are several contra views that are going to argue, and I would see their merit. Like, for example, a technocratic state like a Singapore is much better. A controlled state like a UAE is much better. A controlled state, a monarchic state like a Saudi Arabia is much better. There is peace, there is security, there is stability, there is everything. There is law and order, there is everything there. So I would see their point also. And at the same time, I would also see that, as a neutral observer, I would also see if somebody argues that, okay, land is for the people that live in the land. So what happens to them if they don't have a say in the way that land lives, in the way the land is governed? So yes, I would see their merit also.
Yeah, I think the point that more or less it came down to was like, and I think it was mostly Plato's argument that democracy, or like decisions in a democracy, have to be made by people who have skin in the game. Like you cannot have everybody involved. And what you spoke about, democracy becoming a tool of control, I think the last decade or so that we have seen of intense populism in various elections, or be it state elections in India or everywhere else, free bijli, free pani, free this, free that, they act like tools of control. Those are like the weapons,
No,
like that they're
you are seeing it now, but
Hmm.
when democracy was being, when America was actually actively taking up democracy as a cause to be promoted around in the rest of the world, that is going
Hmm.
back to 1918, 1920, etc., etc.
Hmm.
At that point in time, it was, and I have mentioned that in my book, and I have cited the source and everything. It was
Yes.
quite clear that the decision making, power of decision making, is going to remain with a select few people,
Hmm.
and will give the public an impression that it is they who are controlling things. Actually, वो लोग घंटा कुछ नहीं control करेंगे. So that is the precise moment when you are using this as a tool of control.
Yeah.
So the public actually doesn't control anything. You are giving them an illusion of
Illusion.
control,
Hmm.
right? Now, and that is the reason why there is no accountability.
Correct.
That is the reason why the worst that can happen is एक लीडर ने आपको कुछ नहीं डिलीवर किया, आपने क्या किया, उसको वोट करके निकाल दिया.
हाँ.
वो फिर 5 साल के बाद वो आ गया,
Yeah.
या आपने उसको वोट करके निकाल दिया, वो जाके आपने जिस पार्टी को लेके आया, वो जाके उस पार्टी में ज्वाइन कर लिया. Right? So that is why there is no accountability.
Yeah.
So the conceptually the idea is very good, giving people a voice, people having a say in the laws of their land and the way their land is governed. But factually speaking, real life में ऐसा होता नहीं है. People think that they have a voice, but actually things are controlled by people. एक बात बताओ ना, look at European Union today.
Correct.
I'll give you a glaring example. अभी कमेंट में अगर कोई आके ट्रोल करना चाहे, glaring example, European Union today. आज के दिन में probably 60 to 70% of the white population of Europe hates their government that is in power. They hate Starmer, they hate Macron, they hate that Merz, they hate all the Western European government. Not talking about Hungary and all of these places, Poland and all of these places, but chiefly Western Europe.
Mostly Western Europe. Yeah.
Spain, Belgium, France, Netherlands, England, Germany. People hate their government. These governments are in power. दूसरा कोई आता है, मरीन लपेन आता है, उसके खिलाफ कोई की भी स्लैंडर कर दो, उसको निकाल दो. ये कोई फार राइट बैन कर दो, फार राइट से कोई आया हटा दो, यहाँ से कोई आ गया खत्म कर दो. यही तो करते हैं.
That Romanian election, मतलब people elected their guy, election को इन्होंने discredit कर दिया कि भाई election ही गलत है, जाओ.
So would you call this democracy? You wouldn't call this democracy. But they are a democratic setup. Why is United States, who is so bothered about Bangladesh and I don't know, Venezuela, United States should be rightfully bothered about Europe and Europe का ये country.
Correct.
Because भाई बांग्लादेश वेनेजुएला तो अभी है, यूरोप को तो आपने बनाया 1945 के बाद मार्शल प्लान देके आपने यूरोप को रिकंस्ट्रक्ट किया. So you should have the biggest say. I mean that is literally like your first baby. वहां जाके डेमोक्रेसी सेट करो ना, बाकी दुनिया में तो बाद में जाओगे. So it is like that. So there's a lot of how shall I put it? There's a lot of areas of gray which has made democracy susceptible to whatever is happening. So while as a neutral observer, while I understand the very realistic and the very factual point that yes, technocracy makes a lot of sense for a lot of country. In the long run, technocracy also would have its own set of challenges. जिसको लेके probably because I think we've been talking for a long time now. You have its own set of challenges when it comes to when it comes to artificial intelligence, control over people, and things like that. Technocracy becomes the Big Brother movement. So I would also see the merits of democracy, but the fact is that democracy is not independent. It is controlled by someone.
Correct. Well, that was quite an interesting conversation. We covered a lot of points, and I took up a lot of your time as well.
It was a great Adda, actually. We've been planning to have this Adda for a long time.
For quite some time, yeah. And thank you so much for taking the time today. I hope to speak to you again sometime. वैसे तो we keep interacting anyway, but hopefully more topics to cover
More
at
topics
another
to cover.
time. Hopefully, I'll speak with Arsha ji as well and cover the Middle East situation
Yes,
in
you
a
should
little
take
more.
Arsha's opinion about Iran because
Yeah. I
yeah.
saw your episode which you had done basically that why Iran, why I mean, why Saudi was going all modern and everything, and you had this conversation with Arsha ji that there is something deeper that's going on. That who wants to be the big brother of Islam in Middle
Mm.
East? And that's why basically the
That's
source
the point.
behind
Yeah.
why everybody is making the moves that they're making. Be it getting into conflict with Israel, be it trying to modernize and being the liberator of people within Islamic cultures. Yeah, I sure hope to speak to her sometime. And yeah, again, thank you so much. Have a
Anytime,
great
anytime.
have a
Welcome.
great weekend.
You
Namaste.
too.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.